Commissioner, you may now begin.
Good afternoon. I am Lloyd Priest, the chair of the Montgomery County Housing Opportunity Commission. I want to welcome you to our monthly meeting on March the 2nd, 2022. I'd like to start the meeting by introducing the other members of our commission who are present. Fran Kelleher, Vice Chair, Rick Nelson, our Chair Pro Tem, Commissioner Jackie Simon, Commissioner Jeffrey Merkowitz, Commissioner Pamela Bird, and I think we have one commissioner who we're waiting for, Linda Kroom. She may or may not be present. I want to welcome you to our meeting, and we will start the meeting today normally with our community forum. We have not had any persons who have requested to participate in our community forum today, so we will go immediately to the report of the executive director. Before we do that, let me ask the commissioners, is there any adjustment to the agenda for the meeting that needs to be made at this time? Saying none, we'll proceed with the report from the acting executive director, Karine Brown.
Good afternoon, commissioners and staff in the viewing public. This is the report for March 2nd, 2022. During the month of February, the Resident Services team continued its support for HOC's residents and through its efforts have promoted housing stability. Some of the activities included housing workshops, assistance with vaccination and booster clinic at Cider Mill and Tanglewood. They also assisted with food distribution and assisted with activities, exercise activities at senior communities and bingo to help with the mental health of some of our senior citizens. They also assisted with brown bag food distribution at Elizabeth House and participated in meetings for housing that is being prepared for renovation, primarily at Town Center for those households who would be moved over to the Upton 2 new construction building at Stewarttown, Shady Grove, and the Willow Manor properties. But overall, and most importantly, their efforts have helped, particularly the seniors, to promote proper nutrition for seniors. The Resident Services Group also worked with our youth in our youth enrichment program for after-school STEAM enrichment for third grade to fifth grade, in which we had 22 participants for the month of February. And this is through the HOC Academy. The HOC Academy program also worked with college-age students, and in which there were 24 participants, and approximately 50% of those have received early admissions for college. Not to be outdone, the adult education group also had their own accomplishments and saw about 5 participants legalizing their own businesses during the month. The financial literacy group continued their one-on-one coaching with those participants. And as we all know, financial literacy is key to helping us bridge into financial independence, if you will. At the same time, our supportive housing program continues to work with some of the most vulnerable participants in our programs, primarily those that are formerly homeless. And we'll hear a little bit more about that group later on in this evening's presentation. But their work is particularly important because they reach deep down to some of the most challenged participants in our housing programs. And it's often very difficult to communicate with them and meet their needs, particularly since we remain closed and we hope to be open to the public soon. Our Fatherhood Initiative program continues to work toward meeting its goal of 356 participants for the year. And in fact, in the month of February, we had 42 new enrolled fathers and graduated 36 for the month. Our Housing Resources Division, which administers the Housing Choice Voucher Program, stood at 94% utilization for the month of February, which represents 7,199 vouchers out of a total of 7,659. And of our 118 emergency vouchers, there's still only 4 for which we're waiting for referrals from the County Department of Health and Human Services. And we have successfully had 29 participants who have leased successfully. During the month of February, HOC staff participated with Montgomery County in a community cool down meeting regarding cider mill. There have been a number of issues around that community, and Luis Cardona, who's the administrator for Positive Youth Development at Montgomery County Department of Health and Human Services, hosted a meeting which was attended by several Montgomery County staff persons, community partners, Montgomery County Public Schools, HOC, and a number of other interested parties to really talk through some of the issues that are facing cider mill, specifically in the communities around cider mill. We anticipate participating in this cool down meeting or series of meetings every Friday morning going forward, and hope to bring ideas and actions to the table that will impact directly and positively on cider mill as well as the surrounding community. Turning now to a little bit of real estate news. We've reached the topping out of the West Side Shady Grove construction. And in February, there was a brief topping out event for the workers at West Side Shady Grove. The property is now about 55% complete and is on track to meet its delivery schedule toward the end of calendar year 22 into the beginning of 2023. So we're excited about that and are pleased to announce that not only are we hitting our 20% minority participation on the construction, but Bazooka Construction is expected to exceed that. So we're pleased to know that as well. And then turning finally to Heritage Emery Grove, this item is not in your brief book. It was a last minute addition, but you may recall that we met with the county executive back in October, the chair and several staff members, in addition to the pastor of the Emery Grove United Methodist Church, and a longstanding community member, Miss Carolyn Taylor. She's one of the descendants, maybe 7th generation in Emery Grove. And the county executive was highly interested and supportive of the plans for revitalization of the Emery Grove community, and pledged his support for whatever was needed to provide not just monetary perhaps, but support of land, contributing land to the revitalization of that neighborhood. And so I'm pleased to report that the surplusing of the county land has started, and we're hoping to bring to the commission whatever approval is needed to effect accepting land that will be contributed by the county for the redevelopment and revitalization of Heritage Emery Grove. And so we're pretty excited about this and look forward to having further discussions with you on that. And this ends the report for today. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
One comment I would make just on Emery Grove is that yesterday in the session with the Fed committee, the chair of the Fed committee, Councilmember Reamer, gave a shout out to the Emery Grove project and was very supportive of it.
Yep.
In line with that comment, I thought we'd take a minute, Karen, and talk about the Fed committee meeting that occurred on Monday. I know it happened after your report was submitted to us, but I thought that I want to thank the staff for the work that was done to prepare the presentation that was given at the Fed committee. And I thought maybe you'd take a moment just to summarize what happened.
Sure. So on Monday, we met with the Fed committee. It was attended by several HOC staff persons. Terry Fowler, the budget officer, did most of the legwork in preparing for that. But other staff members, Tim Getzinger, Zachary Marks, Hansuk Choi, Tomi Adobe. I hope I'm not missing anyone. If I am, I apologize for that. But we presented the 6 CIP projects to the Fed committee, included the traditional, historic projects that we've had with the Fed committee, including the county geo bonds, which is a $50 million bond issuance capacity that we have with the account. That's HOC is able to issue up to $50 million in tax exempt bonds that are backed by the county's general obligation pledge. There are 2 revolving fund projects that the county funds as well for a total of about $17 million. There's a demolition fund that provided financing for the demolition of the Ambassador and Emery Grove. And what am I missing? There's the new project that we've requested for the sewer line, increasing the sewer line at Elizabeth Square, that will allow us to be able to obtain our certificate of occupancy for the residential part of Elizabeth Square, as well as the recreational facility, and also very important, the continued support for our scattered site, deeply subsidized scattered site renovations. And part of our presentation aligned those initiatives with the county's efforts around race equity, social justice, and climate impact. And although we often don't think about the impact we're making through our efforts in renovating development, it is pretty clear that we're reaching the low end of the affordability spectrum all the way up to market rate. And so it was pretty easy through our routine efforts as the Housing Authority of Montgomery County to align the county's goals with ours without even making an effort. However, we do make the effort, and so that was pretty clear and came through. And I think the council, the Fed committee council members appreciated that. And there's an effort to assist us as much as they can further as we move through our work. And there was comment on housing production fund, even though there isn't any commitment yet, but I think they're looking forward to us having further discussions on that.
Thank you very much for that. Are there any other questions and inquiries to the acting executive director? If not,
I had a quick question.
Okay.
Karine, are there any updates on our access and use of emergency rental assistance funds?
Sure, and you may hear a little bit more later on. We are actively working with the county on a number of things, and there is the second rental assistance fund that will be becoming available to the county shortly, and we will have the opportunity to have our residents apply to it. But we do have some other initiatives that we're working on that we'll be putting in front of you shortly, and that will hopefully help HOC and its resident, mainly in the area of eviction prevention.
Thanks.
if there are no other questions, we will move to the commissioner exchange portion of the agenda. Do any of the commissioners have any items they want to speak to the fellow commissioners about at this time? Commissioner Simon?
I just want to comment on the continuation of extension of some of our services to our applicants as well as our residents, and encourage the staff to do as much of that as possible, simply because I'm sorry. We can't build our way out of the demand that people are experiencing in the county at the moment. And one way we can ease the burden and increase discretionary income is to providing access to the resources, particularly those that we do online. So I hope we continue to advertise these and extend them to our applicants so they can have the benefit
of some of these classes and programs, particularly the financial wellness and any of the STEM and STEAM programs that we can absorb into the program. I just applaud that and hope that we continue full bore on achieving maximum utilization of those efforts.
Thank you, Commissioner Simon. I would also want to take a moment and comment, KV, relative to the reference you made to the cool down meeting that was held out in Cider Mills. I would hope that we can look at that model as sort of going forward in terms of our engagement with the community and on a regular basis, as opposed to when something occurs that makes that kind of partnership come together collaboratively. But if we were to be able to use and export that model to other communities, it would maybe put us as advocates and get in front of some of these things before they become issues and problems. We don't always know what those things are going to occur. But I think that format is certainly one that I would encourage the staff to continue to look at and support throughout our different properties. Any other comments? If not, we will move the agenda forward. And the next item on the agenda is approval of minutes for the February 2nd, 2022, both the closed session and the regular meeting. Also for approval of minutes of February the 7th, 2022, special session, and also for a closed session. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes of February 2nd, 2022, including the closed session of February 2nd, 2022, as well as the minutes of February 7th, 2022, and the closed session of February 7th, 2022.
And a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and second to approve the recited minutes. Are there any questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. We will now go into our committee reports, and we will start with the Administrative and Regulatory Committee, which is chaired by Commissioner Kelleher.
Thank you, Chair Priest. The Administrative and Regulatory Committee met last week to discuss a proposed or recommended change for the supportive housing program relative to leases. And I believe Fred Swan is available to introduce this subject to us.
Yes, good afternoon, commissioners, staff, and viewing public. For the record, I'm Fred Swan, the Director of Resident Services. I'm here today to ask the Commission to authorize the Acting Executive Director or her designee to enter into lease agreements with landlords under the Supportive Housing Program. The Supportive Housing Program is a permanent supportive housing initiative funded through HUD grants. The program serves persons with disabilities that are formerly homeless. The program serves one of the most vulnerable populations in the county. We currently serve 239 participants under the program. The program provides housing subsidies, intensive case management services, and other supports to ensure housing stabilization. HUD stipulates that all jurisdictions administering the program operate under one of two program structures. These include the rental assistance structure, which is akin to the voucher program, in that the participants pay 30% of their income in rent to landlords. They enter into lease agreements with landlords, and the agency pays the balance of the rent. Under the leasing structure, the agency enters into lease agreements with landlords, and the program participants enter into occupancy agreements with the agency and pays their portion of the rent to the agency. We are recommending moving to a leasing structure as it provides the most flexibility and will allow for the collection of additional revenue beyond the HUD grants. Under the rental assistance structure, participants are subject to evictions by landlord, which makes it difficult to rehouse them due to negative marks on their tenant history and credit. Operating under a leasing model would shield participants from this, as HOC would effectively serve as their landlord and be able to move them freely into other units leased by HOC should the need to move them arise. Additionally, under the leasing structure, the rent payments from the participants to HOC can be utilized beyond the grant funds to support additional program participants and additional support services. This is possible because HUD pays nearly 100% of all rents through the grant, so revenue generated from the participants' portion of the rent is not needed for rent and therefore can be used to support additional participants and support services. We are currently operating the program as a hybrid between both structures. The participants currently have leases with landlords, but they pay HOC their portion of the rent. The revenue we've generated from these rents has allowed us to serve an additional 15 participants beyond the funding from the HUD grants. We also pay utilities and provide other supports as needed. We must move from the current hybrid structure to fully operating under either the rental assistance or leasing structure. Based on
Excuse me, Fred.
Sure.
Could you ask whoever is controlling the slides to move from the slides up, because what you're talking about is presented in some of the slides.
Yeah, if you could move the slides down.
To page 39.
Yeah, 39. Okay, going back, we currently operating the program as a hybrid between both structures. The participants currently have leases with the landlord, but pay HOC their portion of the rent. The revenue generated by these rents has allowed us to serve an additional 15 participants beyond the HUD grants. We also pay utilities and provide other supports as needed. We must move from the current hybrid structure to fully operate under the rental assistance or leasing structure. Based on the advantages of the leasing structure, we are proposing to move to a leasing structure and therefore need authorization from the commission for the acting executive director or her designee to enter into lease agreements. This completes the summary of the packet, and I'll now answer any questions that you may have.
I had a question. Thanks for that summary, Fred. In general, I think the leasing structure sounds like it definitely provides more benefits and has a bit of a win-win in terms of more stability for tenants and for HOC the opportunity to serve additional clients or expand the number of clients that we can serve with it. I am curious, however, about any trade-offs with the rental assistance. Does this limit the tenant's ability to select a location to live to just what HOC has already identified, or if it works like the voucher program, is it just in buildings or homes that HOC already has a?
No, actually, under the leasing model, we couldn't lease HOC owned units. We'd have to lease privately owned units in the market. And so it wouldn't necessarily limit them. As long as the landlord's willing to agree to enter into a lease with HOC, then they can go to any unit within the county.
I see. So residents would be able to identify a location that they wanted to live, and then we would negotiate a lease with the landlord.
Yes, as long as they're willing. Now, we do have certain, there are certain properties that we have tenants at now, and they may be willing to lease units, additional units there. It just all depends.
Okay. No, that sounds great then. Okay, thank you.
Fred, I have a question concerning this program from the point of view, or needs some education on. Are these administered by other organizations?
No.
Are the services, or is our agency providing the services?
Our agency is providing the case management services and the other supports like utility assistance, transportation, things like that. We do refer, depending on what the need is, we refer to services within the county, depending on what the need is for each individual participant.
Have you had any requests from persons with physical disabilities that are currently in hospitals and other institutions that really don't require those services, but for
Not
the availability of units?
Not through the program, because we get all our referrals directly from HHS, as that's how it works under the homeless continuum of care. All the referrals come through the homeless system.
And Jackie, that's the county's HHS,
Right.
not
Yes.
national HHS.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if they get any of those type of requests. That's something we can reach out and ask, but we get direct referrals. So whenever there's a slot available, we go to the county and they send us some referrals.
Well, I know in the past that's been a significant concern of particularly the Commission for People with Disabilities, is getting these people out of institutional settings, and the affordability issue is the only issue. So I think those persons are not defined as homeless, though I cannot understand how anyone could think that an institutional hospital setting is a home.
Yeah.
And I wish there were some way that we could open that discussion and
Yeah, well, we
allow
actually,
people to
I'm sorry, go ahead.
allow people to live independently and participate in the life of the community.
Yes, now we do have a different program that we partner with the state where we do bring individuals out of nursing homes and other institutional settings. And we do house them in HOC units. We're actually in the process of setting aside a total of 40 units for that very purpose through a separate program.
I can't tell you how excited I am to hear that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions for Fred about this? No?
So I guess I do have one. So does this mean then, in the past, when we've had issues between landlords and tenants, HOC was not able to necessarily get into it, and we always said it was, the lease was between the tenant and the landlord.
Mhm.
And now we are directly involved.
Yes. We will be directly involved with the leases, negotiating the leases or any issues that come up or arise through the leases. So that will be the biggest difference between how we currently operate the program and how it will be operated then.
And how do you think that's going to impact your workload?
I wouldn't say it was going to impact it significantly, because we still get inquiries from landlords when they're dealing with issues with their tenants. So we face some of those issues right now, although we're not legally responsible for any of those issues. They do reach out to our case managers and our staff when those issues arise.
Are there other questions? If not, can we get a motion?
I would like to move that we approve Resolution 2217 to authorize the executive director or designee to execute lease agreements for the supportive housing program.
Second.
It's been probably moved in second to approve resolution 22-17. Are there any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. The resolution is approved unanimously.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you for your presentation. We will now turn to the Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee that is chaired by Commissioner Nelson.
The first item on the agenda for BF&A is presentation by the staff and a request for the commission to accept the second quarter for fiscal year 2022 budget to actual statements. And I assume Tim Getzinger, acting CFO, will introduce the subject.
Correct. Thank you, Commissioner Nelson. For this first item, Toby Odebo will be presenting. Toby, you're up.
Tim. Thank you, Tim. The agency ended the quarter with a net cash flow surplus of $1,779,225, which resulted in a second quarter budget to actual positive variance of $1,758,871. The general fund experienced a positive expense variance as a result of savings in expenses offset by lower draws on the OHRF. Several of the unrestricted properties in the Opportunity Housing Fund underperformed budget expectations as a result of overages in various expense categories, coupled with lower tenant income. The voucher program experienced a higher administrative surplus through December 31st of 2021 as a result of higher than anticipated administrative fee income, countered by a negative variance in administrative expenses. The Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee reviewed this request at its meeting on February 24th, 2022, and joined staff's recommendation that the commission accept the second quarter fiscal year 22 budget to actual statements. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them at this time.
Are there questions from commissioners?
If there are no questions, I would move approval of Resolution 22-18, acceptance of the second quarter FY22 budget to actual statements.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded to approve Resolution 22-18 related to the budget to actual statements for the second quarter. Are there any questions? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. The Resolution 22-18 is approved unanimously.
The next item is the uncollectible tenant accounts receivable authorization to write off said accounts for the period October 1 through December 31, 2021.
Thank you. For this item, Eugenia Pasquale will be presenting. Eugenia, you are up.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, commissioners. The fiscal year 2022 second quarter packet to write off uncollectible accounts receivable from former tenants was presented by the staff to the Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee at its February 24, 2022 meeting. As part of the agency's policy, we provide for an allowance for any tenant's accounts receivables which have been outstanding for over 90 days. Also, the staff periodically recommends to the Commission the write-off of uncollected receivables from past tenants to update the financial records and correctly reflect the receivables and the potential of collection. The proposed write-off for the period covered October 1, 2021 to December 31, 2021 is about $78,000, consisting of $43,000 from Opportunity Housing Properties, $32,000 from LIHTC RED Properties, and $3,000 from Supportive Housing. At the property level, major contributors are Seneca Ridge, Scattered Site 1, and MHLP 10, which together accounted for about 78% of the total. The primary reasons for the write-off across the properties include tenants who skipped or voluntarily left their units, tenants who passed away, and tenants who purchased home. Other reasons include tenants who no longer qualifies for the program or failed to complete annual certification, those who ported out, need more space, or no longer in any HOC program. The BF&A committee reviewed this request during their last meeting and joined staff in its recommendation for the commission to approve the proposed write-off for $77,988 for the second quarter of FY22. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Eugenia, since you indicated that 77% of the write-off is tied to 3 properties, and you listed an itinerary of different reasons, can you specify what are those different types of actions happened at these 3 properties to cause this write-off to be necessary? I mean, was it more dealing with the tenants who have skipped, or what? I mean, what do you know? You might not know, but if you know, could you tell me?
We have a total of 24 ex-tenants who are included in this write-off, and most of them are those who voluntarily just left the units with balances and skip.
Okay.
After.
So I can jump in right here. There was one, when we dug a little deeply, that there was I think a glitch in procedures whereby there were folks residing in a unit, and I think because we were in moratorium and weren't as aggressively pursuing eviction and such sort of fell through the cracks, to be quite honest. And so there's a large balance. And when it was discovered and we tried to correct and address the issue, the arrearage had grown to a pretty significant amount. In any case, we've discovered it and we've taken some actions, but that amounted for a pretty significant portion of at least one of the three large balances. So, I think what we've learned through all of this, the pandemic has created some circumstances for us and we're likely to find more of these types of issues, not because of lack of oversight, but we were not pursuing eviction proceedings because, again, we were in moratorium. But we've learned a thing or two from that, and so we're reviewing a number of things from our operations. But there isn't any other way to explain it than that. And we're addressing the issue.
Kareem, related to that, do we have a sense of the impact of COVID-19 on particularly our elderly population as to moving out of our units, either voluntarily or skipping, to move in with family or to choose other alternatives to living in multifamily dwellings?
Well, I think based on the arrearages that we're seeing, folks are not really moving out. And I would look to, somebody on the property side to speak to that, but I think folks are not moving out as quickly as we would expect. They're essentially staying put, and some have applied for assistance and are receiving it. And I think others are waiting for more help to come their way. So I don't think it's a large exodus from our properties, to be quite frank. And we're hoping to be able to help as many of them as we can.
Okay, thank you.
One of the things I would mention related to that is that this subject received some considerable discussion at the BF&A committee meeting. And thanks to the staff for following up on it. And I was briefed yesterday on the results that Karine has just given to you. I think what it points out is that, there's some good and bad in terms of the policies. One of the county, the no eviction policy, is good because you're not putting people on the street. But on the other hand, no eviction policy means that some people take advantage of the system and stay in the units and don't pay because they know they're not getting kicked out. And it's an issue that all landlords have to deal with.
Right.
But I'm appreciative of the fact that the staff is now looking a little bit more closely to see if there are any things that we can do in this area. And it's appreciated that we can work on this issue.
I think from several things I've heard that also people who have been evicted from other places seek shelter with relatives that are our residents, and then that creates a tremendous dilemma for us. We can't evict, and yet we've got overcrowding perhaps in some of the units, and I trust that this is being watched as carefully as it can be under the circumstances, but can only be dealt with under the regulations. So we're, like you say, in a catch-22.
Sure, and I think as we work through our eviction prevention proceedings, we will learn a lot more, and we'll know more about those circumstances and try to correct them. But yes, I'm quite sure some of that exists in our own portfolio, but we'll work closely with our property management staff and the management companies and try to resolve as many of those issues as we can and when we know about them.
I believe this address is part of an issue at Cider Mill, for instance, and is contributing to some of the difficulty there.
Karine, this is Commissioner Byrd. Is it possible, I heard you talk about correction, but is it possible that we can start to track the monetary impact so that perhaps going forward, if HUD or Montgomery County decides to provide any type of relief to us or other housing agencies, will be readily prepared to present the monetary impact? Is that possible?
And you mean the monetary impact of folks that have not paid or?
Right, what you were just talking about, you recognize the problem, you're doing some corrections, but hopefully there's a way to track. Okay, we wrote off 77,000, but of that 77,000, we noticed this amount. And so we're just tracking that so that if it came about that we got some type of relief, we'll be able to give an amount, because I agree with Commissioner Nelson, these no eviction policies are both a positive and a negative, and sometimes people don't understand the negative impacts to both landlords and to us and other housing authorities.
So we're starting, so that's a good point. We're starting with the eviction prevention first. But we do know about the write-offs, and we have the data to prove it. And so beyond that, we'll be able to figure out what else we can negotiate with the county. We don't know how far that will get us, because again, the focus is on keeping people housed. And then we'll see what happens beyond that, because right, the need is tremendous for us. It's impacting our bottom line, and it's always going to be a negotiation and a discussion with the county.
Yeah,
But there's also the possibility that some of the write-offs could be reduced in the future because of the emergency rental assistance program. I mean, we have reported or included some of those folks who are currently behind in payments, so that maybe they won't appear on the uncollectible in the future.
Right. So if they're still there and they have access to those funds, yes. Once they're out, then we're not able to apply funds. But if they're able to remain and we're able to write down their arrearages, then yes, and they won't appear on the write-offs and on collectibles.
In regard to, we're talking right now about write-offs, but what I'm quite conscious of the fact that the agency maintains an ongoing understanding of where we are in our accounts receivables. So we always know where we are in terms of outstanding arrearages that are coming in on a regular basis. Because I know we've been able to respond to both the rental assistance demonstration request and to other things we've been asked to do to determine the level of where we are right now in terms of rent arrearages. So I know that's an ongoing data that is maintained by the agency.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes.
And discussed at every one of our BFNA meetings.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any other questions from commissioners? If not, could we get a motion to approve resolution 21-19?
Resolution 22-29, uncollectible tenant accounts receivable.
Commissioner Byrd, I second.
It's been probably moved and seconded to approve resolution 22-19, dealing with uncollectible tenant accounts receivable. Are there any other questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposers, nay. Resolution is approved unanimously. We will thank you very much from the Budget and Finance and Audit Committee. We will now turn to our Development and Finance Committee, as chaired by Commissioner Simon.
Good afternoon. Our significant item at the moment is Hillandale Gateway, an exciting development on contribution to the engagement and expansion of the Eastern Montgomery County, and receiving an update of the design and development and an approval of the development plan for the age-restricted building, as well as approval to select a building company as a general contractor, and then to select a firm for construction management services. And I believe a number of our staff will be participating in this presentation. Corinne, do you want to take it from there?
Yes, this is good. For the record, I'm Kareen Brown, and this is really exciting project that's coming together very nicely. And I think as we continue our work on it, it'll even get better. So I won't steal Catherine Hollister's thunder. I'll just turn it over to her and Marcus and Zach, and have, I think it's Catherine, but if Marcus or Zach want to say anything, I'll give them the opportunity to do that before she gets into the full presentation. So Marcus or Zach, please have your moment.
Yeah, I can't see Zach, but yes, it's been a long time coming, a lot of effort that's gone into it. And I think what Catherine will deliver is definitely just raising the bar in terms of our developments and input from the commissioners and the overall development team. So, with that said, Zach, if you don't have anything, I'll turn it over to Catherine.
Catherine, have at it.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Catherine Hollister. I'm a Senior Financial Analyst in the Real Estate Division. Today, I'll be presenting a development and design update on Hillandale Gateway, and we'll be seeking the Commission's approval of a preliminary development plan for the age-restricted building, as well as approval of the selection of a general contractor and construction manager for Hillandale Gateway. On page 68 of your brief book is the executive summary. Hillandale Gateway will be a new mixed-use, mixed-income, multi-generational community located on the site of Holly Hall Apartments. It will comprise 2 residential buildings, one, a 155-unit net zero energy age-restricted senior building, which we refer to as the AR building. The other, a 308-unit passive house non-age restricted multifamily building, which we refer to as the NAR building. In addition to the residential buildings, the site will have a drive-through Starbucks, parking garage, restaurant spaces, and public and private green space. Of the 463 units in the development, a minimum of 30% will be affordable. Staff is evaluating multiple affordability scenarios for the NAR building, which will determine the ultimate site-wide affordability. Staff intends to return to the Commission next month for approval of a preliminary development plan and affordability mix for the NAR building. The 3 items for the Commission's consideration today are 1, approval of a preliminary development plan for the AR building, 2, selection of CBG Building Company as general contractor for Hillandale Gateway, and approval for the acting executive director to negotiate a contract with the firm, and 3, selection of Lampus Rank as the construction manager for Hillandale Gateway, and authorization for the acting executive director to execute a contract with a firm that commits HOC to pre-construction costs only and allows HOC the right to terminate the contract prior to construction should the transaction not close. Page 69 of your brief book discusses the development highlights. There are many of them, so I'll touch on these briefly. First, affordability. This will be a contemporary mixed income community with a minimum of 30% affordability. Again, the final affordability level will be subject to the Commission approved NAR building affordability mix. Economic development. The development will be the first major multifamily investment in the East County in decades and is intended to be a catalyst for achieving broader transformations in Hillandale. Sustainability. The development will be built to passive house standards, with the AR building achieving zero net energy, meaning that it produces as much energy as it uses. This is an extraordinary achievement in the multifamily sector in the region. Resiliency. Hillandale Gateway will also provide a resiliency center for residents in the surrounding neighborhood during periods of grid outages. Public open space. There's a significant amount of outdoor public space at Hillandale Gateway, and it's programmed in a way that will attract and engage both residents and the broader community. Transportation. The development of Hillandale Gateway also includes more than $1 million in transportation improvements along Powder Mill Road, including a new bus transit center. The site will also feature 70 electric vehicle charging stations for use of residents and visitors. And then digital equity. The development team is working with the county to provide free internet service to residents in the AR building and is exploring the possibility of extending the service to low-income residents at the NAR building as well. Page 70 of your brief book is an aerial view of the site. Number 1 on the east side of the site is the AR building. Number 2 on the west is the NAR building. On the south is number 3, the parking garage. Numbers 4 are 2 retail plazas in the center of the site with flexible green space and outdoor dining area in between. Number 5 is the Starbucks, which is on the northeast corner of the site. Number 6 is the new transit center along Powder Mill Road. And just south of the transit center are multiple public open spaces. Number 7 is a central green with an open lawn and amphitheater. Number 8 is an urban plaza with seating and tables. And number 9 is a festival street that can be closed down to traffic to provide a pedestrian-only area, which would be ideal for farmers markets or other community events. Page 71 shows exterior renderings of the development, and pages 72 and 73 show some of the amenity spaces in the NAR and AR building. The interior renderings show the interior architecture of the spaces and the selected finishes, so the wall coverings, flooring, lighting, colors. The furniture has not been chosen yet, so the furniture depicted in these renderings is for illustrative purposes only. Pages 74 and 75 highlight the accessibility features of the site and within the buildings. Accessibility has been a prominent factor throughout the design process. Pages 76 and 77 highlight 2 unique design and construction features of Hillandale Gateway. The first is passive house, which is a building method that results in extremely energy efficient buildings. Other benefits of passive house are more comfortable living spaces, healthier indoor air quality, and more resilient buildings. The second construction feature that is highlighted is prescient, which is a prefabricated steel structural system that will be used at Hillandale. The key benefit of prescient is that it allows for more density on the site at a per unit construction cost that is comparable to wood construction, which results in more units, both affordable and market rate, at Hillandale Gateway. Page 78 illustrates who we think our residents will be at Hillandale Gateway. On the AR side, Hillandale Gateway will provide an attractive option for seniors who live in the area that are looking for an easier day-to-day or an engaging community to connect with. For the NAR building, we believe residents will come from near and far and will attract households looking for more room to grow or for more convenient access to major employers. Hillandale Gateway is less than 1.5 miles from the FDA and within 5 miles of 2 major hospitals. Page 79 provides market comps and include both HOC and non-HOC developments. Pages 80 and 81 present the preliminary development plan for the AR building. This is really the framework that staff and the development team will use for its financing applications. To be clear, this is not the final development or finance plan. Staff will return to the commission in July for approval of those final plans. So for the AR building, staff proposes financing the residential portion of the AR building utilizing the low income housing tax credit program. If you go back to page 80, yeah, exactly. The chart on the right shows the building affordability mix. Staff proposes that 113 units are restricted to 50% AMI and 42 units restricted to 80% AMI. This affordability mix allows the AR building to utilize income averaging, which deepens the affordability of the building and the site and provides additional LIHTC equity to the transaction. At the bottom of page 80 is a brief summary of HOC's other LIHTC income averaging transactions. Page 81 presents the preliminary sources and uses for the AR building. During construction, sources include a tax-exempt construction loan, LIHTC equity, county HIF, and HOC equity. Upon stabilization and conversion, the construction loan will be taken out by a permanent FHA risk share loan, energy efficiency funding and rebates, and deferred developer fee. Pages 85 discuss the general contractor RFP and selection recommendation for Hillandale Gateway. Staff, if you go back to page 82, staff issued RFP number 2266 for general contracting services for the construction of Hillandale Gateway. The RFP was posted to HOC's website and was distributed to more than 300 vendors registered in Montgomery County's Central Vendor Registration System, known as CVRS. A pre-proposal meeting and conference was held virtually, which 7 firms attended, and proposals were scored by a scoring committee based on the 5 criteria listed on page 82 of your brief book. Page 83 provides background on the two bidders that submitted proposals. HOC has worked with both GCs in the past. Page 84 discusses the results of the scoring committee. CBG received the highest score of 84 points. CBG stood out in both qualifications and price. CBG is the most experienced GC in the country when it comes to prescient construction, and they are also the GC for Montgomery County's first prescient building at Pooks Hill. CBG also submitted the lowest bid. Page 85 provides the price comparison between the two bidders. Bozzuto's bid was approximately 8% higher than CBG's. Pages 86 through 89 discuss the construction manager RFP and selection recommendation. Staff issued RFP number 2282 for construction manager services for Hillandale Gateway. The RFP was posted to HOC's website and was distributed to more than 300 vendors registered in the CVRS. A pre-proposal meeting and conference was held virtually, which 9 firms attended. Proposals were scored by a scoring committee based on the 4 criteria listed on page 86. Page 87 provides background on the bidders that submitted responsive proposals. HOC has experience working with all 3 bidders. Page 88 summarizes the results of the scoring committee. Lambus Rank scored highest in qualifications and MFD participation. It also submitted the lowest bid, which resulted in the firm receiving the maximum points for price. Even if the other 2 bidders received full points under the price category, Lambus Rank would still receive the most points overall. Page 89 provides a comparison of the bids submitted and staff's recommendation. Page 90 presents the development timeline for Hillandale Gateway. Staff intends to return to the commission next month for approval of a preliminary development and finance plan for the NAR building. And staff will also return to the commission in May to select a LIHTC syndicator for the AR building, and again in July for approval of a final development and finance plan for both the AR and NAR buildings. Construction closing is expected to occur by calendar year end 2022. Page 91 summarizes the prior commission actions regarding Hillandale Gateway, and page 92 presents the summary recommendations for these items. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
This is just a very exciting undertaking, both from an energy and accessibility and new construction process and materials, and many kudos to the staff for the amount of things that you've been able to embrace within this site. I think it's extraordinary, and I think we're very lucky to have an opportunity to make this kind of a constructive impact in the Hillandale area, since there's so many exciting things on the drawing boards for Hillandale. And so thank you for the efforts. We're looking forward to doing a great job on affordability as well, and are anxious to see your recommendations as you bring to us next month on the NAR building.
Question I have, do you know offhand what 80% of AMI is for the singles in the county?
For a one-person household, I do not know, but I can probably look it up.
I mean, it seems to me, and I guess this is a question that we ought to think about during marketing. There are views that people have of affordable housing and HOC housing, but when you come to age-restricted housing, if you're housing a senior at 80% of AMI, that senior is probably can make up to $70,000 or $80,000 probably, or something, some relatively high figure, particularly for a senior who is retired. So it's really, it's almost a different category than family. And we ought to somehow be able to express that in terms of marketing so that people don't view it as a replacement for Holly Hall and just public housing eligibles. I mean, the same is true, actually, 50% AMI is not necessarily the poorest. And I'm not sure, I haven't seen the figures lately, where seniors in the county fit on that spectrum. But with senior housing, we have an ability to house a range of clientele.
So I just looked up the 80% AMI income limit for a one-person household is $72,240.
Okay, yeah, well, I mean, a senior, 72,000.
That's
What'd
an
you say, Kate?
that's an inefficiency. So if it's like in a tax credit unit, it's more like 77,000.
Okay.
In a one bedroom,
Well,
they allow up to 77,000. So anywhere from 72 to 77,000.
so the point is with seniors and their, do we do an asset test for, or is it just income? Or does anybody know offhand?
So there would be an asset test.
Yes,
Okay.
it starts out.
Oh, Darcel, there you are.
Well, in any event, I think that we need to pay some attention to that so that we don't get viewed as having just the very poorest of the poor in that building.
I think it perhaps would help if we had some way of describing when we say percent of AMI to put that number in by household size in some way so that it is clear that we're getting a range.
I mean, I remember when we marketed a property in Silver Spring, it was not age restricted, but we talked about the kind of clientele, the kind of employers that they would have, which reflected that you're not talking about just people who are unemployed. So anyway, just a suggestion. And I concur with Jackie's comments, and because of I would move resolution 22-20.
And I'd like to second it. Roy, you're on mute.
I'm sorry. It's been properly moved and seconded to approve resolution 22-20 dealing with the Hillandale Gateway development. Are there any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion, the resolution is approved unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item before us is the approval of a firm selected to serve the commission as bond counsel for a new contract term in accordance with request for proposal 2288. And I think Jennifer is
Jennifer
handling this.
Yes. Good afternoon, commissioners. For the record, I'm Jennifer Arrington, Acting Director of Mortgage Finance. And we have before you a request seeking approval to select bond counsel to serve the commission in accordance with RFP 2288. Bond counsel provides legal advice and issues legal opinion on issuance of tax-exempt bonds or other securities issued to finance the commission's housing bond programs. You can move to page 97. In 2017, Kutak Rock and Ballard Spar were awarded a contract for 3 years with 2 additional 1-year extensions, and the final renewal period expires on April 9th, 2022. During the contract term, Kutak Rock, which has provided services to HOC since 1979, has served as the commission's bond counsel for all its single-family and multifamily bond issuances. Ballard Spar was contracted for selected standalone or conduit multifamily transactions. However, due to the limitation of volume cap and the commission's healthy real estate development pipeline, the commission has been unable to issue bonds for any third-party transactions. Therefore, while the 2017 procurement considered the need for a separate firm for conduit multifamily transactions, the 2021 procurement did not. On page 98, On October 27th, 2021, RFP 2288 for bond counsel services was published on HOC's website and electronically mailed to 32 firms. 3 responses were received from Kutak Rock, Ballard Spahr, and Tiber Hudson, a full-service minority-owned law firm and DC certified business enterprise. All firms met the minimum requirements as shown on page 99. And a scoring team of 4 members from the commission staff rated the responses. Based upon an average of all scores listed on page 100, Kutak Rock received the highest score. Therefore, due to its long-standing relationship with the commission and knowledge of both its single-family and multifamily bond programs, its depth of experience in public and housing finance, tax law, securities law, real estate law, the completeness of its proposal and its proposed fees, staff believes that Kutak Rock is best suited for a new contract term. A summary of the proposed team and fees are included on page 101 of your packet. Kutak Rock proposes a 9-member bond team. This same team has represented the commission since 2017, if not longer. Combined, its team's average hourly rate is $4.26. Kutak Rock's proposed flat fee for single-family bond issuances represents a 0% increase since the 2017 award. Its proposed fee for multifamily issuances under the commission's parity indentures represents an 8% increase, which is considered reasonable. Based upon each offer's proposal, the evaluation criteria, and the existing healthy pipeline of the commission's anticipated financing, staff recommends that Kutak Rock LLP be selected as the commission's bond counsel for a new contract term of 3 years with 2 additional 1-year extensions in accordance with the commission's procurement policy. Staff further proposes the contract fee not exceed $600,000 annually, and that any future multifamily conduit engagement be negotiated with Kutak Rock in accordance with its proposal. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
If there are no questions, can we get a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved. Resolution 22-21.
Commissioner Byrd, I second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve resolution 22-21 related to the selection of our bond counsel for a new term contract. Are there any questions? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. The motion is carried unanimously. And let me say, because I didn't want to say anything during the period of time and deliberation, but I've been fortunate enough to have had the opportunity to do work with Kutak Rock as part of the bond counsel, the bond work that we have done at HOC. And I've been always tremendously impressed by their knowledge, the manner in which they handle the transactions on behalf of HOC. I think we've been excellently represented in the past, and so I'm looking forward to continuing to work with them.
As we are. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now take a recess in the normal agenda in order to be able to consider meetings of 2 of our development corporations. So we are now currently recessed, and I will call to order the Paddington Square Development Corporation Directors Meeting for the purposes of looking at the approval of the minutes of February the 2nd for the Paddington Square Development Corporation.
I move that we approve the minutes of the Paddington Square Development Corporation for February 2nd of 2022.
Commissioner Byrd, second.
It has been probably moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of February 2nd for the Paddington Square Development Corporation. Are there any questions? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion is carried unanimously. That's the only business to come before the Paddington Square Development Corporation, so that meeting is now adjourned. I will now call to order the meeting of the Metropolitan Development Corporation for the purposes of approving the minutes of February the 2nd, 2022.
I'll move that we approve the Metropolitan Development Corporation minutes of February 2nd, 2022.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded for the approval of the minutes of February 2nd, 2022 for the Metropolitan Development Corporation. Are there any questions? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The motion is carried unanimously. Being no other business to come before the corporation, I now adjourn the meeting of the Metropolitan Development Corporation. And we will now reconvene in our regular HOC meeting. Pursuant to Section 3-305B and D of the General Provisions Articles of the Annotated Code of Maryland, I move to adopt the written closing statement dated March the 2nd, 2022, and to adjourn the open session to a closed session to discuss the status of ongoing negotiations with the union. This meeting must be closed in order to protect the confidentiality of the negotiation. The statutory section that allows this meeting to be closed is Section 3-305B9. If any member of the public wishes to object to the closed meeting, please comment in the YouTube chat box or contact HOC's General Counsel. Instructions can be found in the State of Emergency Open Meeting Procedures, which is posted on HOC's website. Do I have a second?
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded to close the meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Carried unanimously. We are now adjourned in our regular meeting. I want to thank all of those who have participated in this meeting today.